Hello, this is again a GMP Detox session by Markus Römer. Today we will talk about Annex 11 and Annex 15. We have done a lot of sessions in the meantime, 34, 35, something around that. And now we go a little bit more into detail, if this is possible. But we also must think about in general, validation and qualification. I think that's the topic of today, and I will do it a little bit quicker, but hopefully with all the details. The preparation took me some time, so you should profit from my preparation time. So that's the idea. I shared my screen again, and we will stay very European today. I will tell you later why. In Europe, we have the Eudralex Volume 4 for Good Manufacturing Practices, GMP. This session could also be viewed by people who must comply with 21 CFR Part 210, 211 CGMP, current Good Manufacturing Practice from the US FDA, but also the guys from medical devices. I think it makes sense if we talk about validation concepts and the validation methodologies and the validation approaches. Validation and qualification. It's not easy to have a clear definition what is qualification and what is validation. Some also have a third level of verification. So on the top, validation, second, qualification, third, verification. We can even think about a fourth level, but we keep it easy today, validation and qualification. And maybe it's irritating because in volume 4, you have the references to the directives and also to regulations. In the meantime, for the veterinary stuff or ATMPs, then you have part 1, basic requirements, divided into 9 chapters. Then part 2 for APIs, part 3 GMP related documents, and then you have the annexes of the European GMP. And here, maybe it's a construction from the 1990s or something like this. We have here Annex 15, Qualification and Validation, and we have Annex 11, Computerized Systems. So maybe 1991, 1992, people were thinking, oh, computers are coming up, PCs, however we call it, and they might be interesting for our production areas. And they do a very identical thing that also companies are doing. So they have a new topic, so they write just a new SOP. Here they have written a new annex. And sometimes I think it leads to misconceptions, misunderstandings between Annex 11 and Annex 15. And that's the reason why I do the session today. For the people in the US, very similar. The CGMP, Good Manufacturing Practice, are written down in Title 21, Part 211. And the requirements regarding validation and qualification, they are very brief compared to the European ones. I think it's also appropriate just to set up a framework. In Europe, there are more details given. At the end, it's very similar. Basically, it's the same. In the US, you will find that in section 211.68, automatic, mechanical, and electronic equipment. Saying that electronic equipment can also be seen as a computerized system, but there's also mechanical equipment, so they divided it in different types of equipment. Sometimes you might also enter a company and you would be irritated. Someone is talking about equipment and devices and instruments. I like to use the word instrument for the QC part, for example. In production, I talk more about equipment, but we also have computerized systems. We will have a few on that in detail today. Also here to mention, 21 CFR Part 11, electronic records, electronic signatures, is not the validation requirement or the regulations for validation in GMP. Like here, CGMP, these are written down in 211.68. And it's not, it's not more than one page. Appropriate controls, calculations. Such automated equipment used for performance of operations addressed blah blah can satisfy the requirements, including in those sections related to the performance of an operation by one person. And sometimes it's interesting, you find a very similar wording also in Annex 11, in the principle section, for example. But it's basically it's brief. It's not saying DQ, IQ, OQ, PQ, and what about utilities or facilities or cleaning validation, process validation. Here you find it for dedicated for equipment. So now we leave the US again. In Annex 11, it's written down the requirements for a computerized system. Even it starts to be interesting in the principle section. That this sentence is the most magic one. The application should be validated. It's not saying the computerized system should be validated, but the application. So it's moving it to a higher level, the application, the interaction of the user, of the operator, of the analyst with the computerized system. And here also, this annex applies to all forms of computerized systems used as part of GMP-regulated activities. That could be training, changes, whatever, but also production and QC laboratory. So a computerized system is a set of software and hardware components, a combination of that, which together fulfills certain functionalities. So we keep it in mind. A computerized system is a set of software and hardware. Sometimes I'm getting into discussions if somebody's telling me we have a balance or a pH meter, and they say it's not a computerized system. Oh, you can do that, but usually very strictly seen per definition, it's a computerized system. Maybe it's a different type of a computerized system, and even the USP, but also GAMP guides for laboratory systems are working with different classes or groups, group A, B, C, and so on, which makes sense to a certain context. It depends if you set it up on technical parameters or on real GMP risk. Anyhow, this is Annex 11. And then we also have Annex 15. In Annex 15, it's called, wait a second, we go to the top, Qualification and Validation. So the question is, why was the computerized system not put into Annex 15? Because here in Annex 11, we say we must validate the application, the IT infrastructure should be qualified, and then we have here Annex 15. Okay, so we go to the next step here. I should try to do it. Wait a second. It's not so easy with the new MS Teams. It's horrible. That's not good. Okay, so we go now to the PICS document. PICS is providing very good documents, and here we look into basically an older document. It's a kind of a recommendation on computerized systems, PIO 11 from 2007. And what is also interesting here, that they say how they will approach such systems. So it's an interpretation basically of the old Annex 11, but you will find here a lot of useful information. Even sometimes maybe it's a little bit older, but it makes definitely sense. Okay, and it also says how an inspector is approaching something like this, if we talk about control systems, and that he is also thinking about if the system is controlling the process, if it's only storing the data, if it has a direct impact on the process, or is it just a recording system or something like this? I like that quite a lot here in this document. What I wanted to show you here is here a picture how they define a computerized system. You will find that in a lot of different sources. And here again, there's one section saying software. we are not doing the validation of software. If you have a medical device, an SAMD software as a medical device, we talk about software validation. In the pharmaceutical area, I wouldn't do that. So we have the computer system, the controlling system of software and hardware. And if you just look on this picture, if somebody is asking you, do we need to validate the calculator? Then you quickly see that the person asking this question has no idea, does not understand the big picture of validation in total, because we also have the control function or the processes. And here you see again the word equipment. So there's the operating procedures and the people, that's the computerized systems. And around of that, you have the operating system. And this is what in new Annex 11 is written, the application, right? So even if you would have the best software in the world, people would not be trained. They cannot operate the system properly. So that's potential risk for the process or for the product and so on. So this is one part. The other thing is that we put in today here is PI 006, recommendation on validation master plan. So if we want to have a bigger picture, we should look also on the validation master plan, because Annex 15 is defining different, let's call it types or categories of qualification and validation. For example, transport verification, cleaning validation, process validation, qualification of equipment, facilities, utilities, and Annex 11 is defining the validation of applications and qualification of the IT infrastructure. So now we have the entire family with us of validation and qualification. And what I think here is quite very interesting, the validation master plan should present an overview of the entire validation operation, its organization structure, its content and planning. The core of the VMP being the list inventory of the items to be validated and the planning schedule. What I want to point to, and sometimes it's exactly these little words, the list inventory of the items. Of which items? Okay, so I try to draw it down for you a little bit. I had something like this, but I was not finding it today, so I just have written that today, especially for this session. So PI 006 says core of the VMP being the list inventory of the items. Sometimes I call it also validation objects. It doesn't matter. Okay, so let's start here on the right. Annex 15, section 3 is defining qualification. And there you see qualification stages for equipment, facilities, utilities, and systems. It makes definitely sense if you think about what is an equipment for you, what is a facility and a utility. Like in US FDA, you can have mechanical equipment or you can have electronic equipment. Facilities should be pretty clear, and utilities also. Systems, okay, we will see later. In Annex 15, you will find the requirements or the definition of qualification in there. I'm using it slightly different, but there you have the regulatory references into that. And you will also refer also to GMT chapter 3.35. Also, number 3, chapter 3 is for equipment and premises, and you will find also additional information on that. Okay, again, we are trying to get a big picture of validation and qualification. Let's move down. Annex 15, process validation, list of processes. Again, your validation master plan should, let me read it, present an overview of the entire validation approach. So yes, equipment, okay. Then we have process validation. We had a dedicated session about process validation, and I'm just adding here list of processes. You will also find it in the GMP chapter 5.26. You remember that? That was these 9 chapters below of European GMP. And you will find also something like this, maybe sometimes in a kind of a hidden language. Annex 16, section 1.7.2, the qualified person should have an overview of the entire supply chain, internally and externally. So which processes are combined or used to produce product A, B, C, D. So you also need to have a list of your products and a list of your processes. And you should have that, ideally, something like this is written in a comprehensive diagram showing data flows, material flows, and so on between the different process steps. Then we have here also in Annex 15, Section 6, verification of transports. Do not talk about validation or qualification of transportation. It is indeed a verification. Okay, we could go into details on that. We don't do that today. Then we have Annex 15, Section 7, validation of packaging. Okay, then you should have a list of your packaging processes for sure, or you combine it with the list of your processes, right? What kind of processes, sub-processes you have in here. If we talk then about the qualification of utilities, for sure, the list of utilities should be part of the site master file. You see how different things, how they have a relationship to each other. Sometimes I see pretty much in validation, qualification, and writing the site master file and the validation master plan and so on, all in a thinking silo approach. Everyone is doing something in here and there and that, but they do not talk to each other because the things are related to each other. Then we have Annex 15, Section 9, validation of test methods. So if you have own test methods or you also transfer test methods from your client into your organization, Annex 15 is defining validation of test methods. For sure, in QC, you should have a list of methods. You will find also this requirement in GMP chapter 6.15. Yeah, very simple. Or at least, again, maybe these are hidden requirements because they say you should regularly review your methods, blah, blah. Yeah, for sure. Then you must have a list of your methods that you are using or which you have disabled maybe or which you have changed, for example. So yes, you need to have this kind of list view of that. So list of cleaning equipment must be cleaned. So again, in section 10 of Annex 15, you find cleaning validation. Then you have Annex 11. That's now the part of the Annex 11. Principal section, applications, computerized systems should be validated. And there you also have in section 403, Annex 11, you should have an inventory list of that. Okay, and in Annex 11, the second part of the principal sentence is saying IT infrastructure should be validated. So if you write a validation master plan, you should have that in mind, and you should define what is an equipment, what is a facility, utility, and a system. We need to qualify them. Is this also containing equipment which is computerized, or do you then go to Annex 11? That would be my preference. That I say that a PLC system, for example, it's a computerized system. It is also linked with equipment, and it might also be provided with things from qualification of utilities, and it will be in a facility, in a validated, qualified clean room, for example. Same applies Annex 11. IT infrastructure should be validated. It could happen that you need to qualify your server room or your data center or something like that. I'm expecting that this room is also qualified. Okay, and let's go back to PICS PI006 section, core of the VMP validation master plan being the list inventory of the items. So you define what are your items, and then you see it here quite very well. That goes down to European GMP Chapter 4, documentation requirements, Section 4. 4.29, sorry, and the PICS template for the site master file, section 4, premises and equipment. So you need to know your items, and then you define by your own what do you want to qualify and what do you want to validate. And very simple, transportation must undergo a verification. So I hope this picture helps you in building up a validation master plan to say we need a list of our utilities, a list of our testing methods that we use in analytics, list of the cleaning processes that we have, the list of transports that we do, the list of packaging processes. You see, this is very fundamental, your master data in defining your validation concept, your validation approach. What I found very interesting also, this is very well done. If you would go deeper into process validation, that was done by Farm Out. And I think the number is Australian. So Australian guys have done a wonderful picture of process validation. You see that here, concurrent validation, continuous process verification, the hybrid approach and the traditional approach, what is the relationship to process development and what are the ongoing activities for verification of your processes. I like this picture. We don't have the time today to go here deeper into process validation, but here to Farm Out, absolutely greatly done. Wonderful picture defining that quite very well. What is process validation? Here is the red cross with the retrospective validation. Excellent, guys. That's really cool. And you see a process validation approach from it was mostly written during the draft period in whatever, 2010 or something like this of Annex 15. Very well done. Great. I will think to implement a similar picture on that. So in principle, you see that here I have done that in German for a German client customer, but you will pretty much understand it. So we are looking into the company, and then we define here different types, A, B, C, D, and so on. So A is equipment, B is computerized system, a facility, utility, IT infrastructure, process, and packaging. We are combining it. Then the transport, the cleaning, and the test methods. We refer Annex 15 or Annex 11 here. CAP stands for chapter in German, and then we do some examples. Mechanical systems or instruments used for IPC, in-process control, what is with computerized systems or with IT, with the IT network, with MS Excel or something like this, just having different examples in that. Also here for the utilities, what kind of systems we have. Then the production process with the CPPs, CQAs, and so on. And so you can control your validation master plan. Most of the validation master plans are not written in such a detail based on the regulatory requirements to have this big picture of Annex 15 and Annex 11. You have seen, I didn't do too much magic, just Annex 15 different sections, process validation and validation of packaging, qualification of utilities, and then you define these kind of items, and you define to say what must be qualified and validated. There's not a one-size-fits-all approach. That's impossible. Huh? But I think that's a good point if you start to set up your validation objects, your items like this, and to have a clear understanding within the company that we need to have a list of our processes or sub-processes. You will massively profit from that. Basically, on top, you also have a list of products, and then you can see what kind of equipment and what kind of processes you are using to produce that. And there could be some overlapping. You can have different approaches then for process validation or bracketing approaches and so on. So that goes much deeper in just having a flat list of your computerized systems or something like this. So, okay, so we started here with Annex 11, Annex 15. I tried to give you a bigger picture and how I handle it with Annex 15 and Annex 11 with different qualification validation types or categories, that these are based on Annex 15. So I didn't know how much time it took me and if the message was coming through. I like this table. Maybe you also see a need for having something like this in your, even in your site master file. You will see a lot of relationships. Try to find that. Yeah, if you say list of cleaning, it's also written in GMP chapter 5.21. And the second clause for operational stuff, organizational lists. So you will find that all of that things in GMP makes much sense to have a good overview of the things that you are doing and that you find out to do the right things to do. Yeah, that's maybe also important. Okay, thanks so much. That was today Annex 11, Annex 15. The construction is a little bit irritating. Just draw a mind map, and then maybe it's easier also for you. I need things like this so that I can have a full, a good overview, the big picture of that. Okay, thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.